Welcome back, everybody, to This Is My Bourbon Podcast. I'm your host, Perry, and with me, just like he always is, because I can rely on him, just like the sun on a clear day, and taxes? Death? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's Eric the Whiskey Mutant.
It's tax season.
It hit me the other day how close we are to tax day. I mean, we're literally, as of recording, 1 month away.
I kind of want to just file an extension just to see what happens.
I've never filed one before.
Me either. Should we do it?
No, because I need the return money.
Oh, that's right. make content out of it. TIMBP boys, file an extension.
We'll do a live stream on Twitch. Imagine us streaming our tax filing on Twitch.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. You can see me cry.
How you doing?
Good.
Good. Oh, got to mute my computer because Discord notifications are going off.
Well, you know, we put an announcement in there.
We did. The hotel link is live for people to book for This Is My Bourbon Podcast meetup weekend. Memorial Day weekend in May. Towards the end of May.
But how do they get on the Discord?
Well, you can get on the Discord if you support the show by heading to patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast and support the show for as little as $1 a month. For as little as $5 a month, though, you get bonus content. That's starting at $5. $5 and up.
$5.
Essentially. There's all kinds of tiers that are over there. A shirt tier, hangout tier.
God tier.
Basically.
Yeah.
Thanks. We're going to start calling him God Cooper.
God Cooper. God Cooper. Can you hear me?
Are you there, God Cooper? It's
there?
Me and Eric.
It's me again, God Cooper. One day we'll be referees again on It's Bourbon Night, but you know,
just can't let it go.
You know, it just wasn't our year.
Anyway, at the $5 tier, there's a bonus episode that comes out every Monday. There's the pregame chats that come out every Tuesday. And around 10 o'clock Eastern on Tuesdays as well, the uncut version of the podcast comes out as well. That's where you can hear things that I had to cut out for some episodes, especially one very...
I wasn't feeling it.
No, last week.
Today.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, but I'm talking about what you said last week that got us laughing so hard. That was good. It's fun stuff.
Yeah.
We got a really exciting interview coming up for you here in a little bit. But before we get to that, we got some things we got to take care of first, such as letting you know that the hotel link for the meetup weekend is live in the Discord. That's what I was going to say. I forgot. The Discord is only available to our Patreon supporters.
There you go.
Any tier.
Any tier.
You can sign up and you have access to the Discord.
God tier.
Yeah. God Cooper tier.
Super Saiyan tier.
Oh.
Yeah.
We should have, by the time this episode comes out, live show tickets available as well. Very excited for that.
Got the VIP limited edition.
Yes. So stay tuned for that, or maybe it's already out there. I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah. Well, it will be because.
Will it?
Yes, it will be.
Will it?
Stop.
Okay.
We normally kick off the show with a flying blind or sips and snacks. Today, though, I got a flying blind for you.
You got it?
Do you have a flying blind?
I mean, I made a backup one.
All right.
Close my eyes just for the night. Have you had this already?
Yes.
Okay. I like doing this because when I open my eyes back,
there's bourbon.
There's bourbon, and I kind of feel high because I can't see. Like there's just blurry stuff everywhere.
Yeah, floaters.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're a little kid and you try to make yourself pass out.
Yeah. All right, you are.
Am I good?
You are good to go, my friend. We're gonna go.
There it is.
We're gonna go left to right.
Left to right. All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that smells good. That smells good too. Oh, that smells really good. These smell like they've got a little bit of age on them.
I will say they also smell better than when I tried them before.
Okay. Breaking it down here. Left smells like a chocolate rick house. Smells like chocolate in barrels. Maybe they gave you a little piece of chocolate and you're on your bourbon tour.
The 3 predominant notes that I get on it are cinnamon, oak, and clove.
Okay. Clove.
I get a lot of clove on the nose on this one.
I'm getting like cocoa chocolate.
I do get chocolate as well, but it's very like bitter.
Like dark
chocolate. Yep.
Yeah. Cheers.
Oh, it's weird. It's weird.
As soon as you said that, I was getting ready to say the nose does not match up with the palate.
No, it doesn't.
If the nose is a chocolate rick house, the palate is chocolate wet grass hay.
Yeah.
I like the nose way better than the palate.
It's almost like if ever a thing were to exist, a chocolate clove cigarette. A wet chocolate clove cigarette.
If you ate it on accident.
Instead of smoking.
Man, I wish that tasted like it smelled.
I know.
Okay. I like
2 smells so much better, I think, personally.
This smells...
But it's got the oak that I love.
It's got a oaky... It's got the grape. It's got the purple oak. The grapey purple oak. It smells like it's got some age on it. Yeah. You said on the pregame what kind of jelly? Like jam? Did you say blueberry?
Blueberry. Yeah.
This has got a blueberry, some kind of blueberry like syrup jam.
Was that the pre? That was the that was pours from the floor.
Pours from the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. It smells old and blueberry-ish.
Yeah. Oh man.
All right. Okay, now that's better.
Dude, that tastes so much better than it did when I first had it.
That is way better than the one on the left. The blueberry.
I'll say this, it better.
Okay. The blueberry and like the purple grapey note comes out, but there's also like it's like peanut butter. It's like a perfect peanut butter and jelly.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of a nuttiness and a peanut butter, but peanut butter and jelly, that is a delicious peanut butter and jelly pour.
Yeah.
It has to have a little age on it.
Oh, it's got some age on it, my friend.
Okay.
Left is the Bernheim Original Kentucky Straight
whiskey.
Wheat whiskey.
125.
Yeah, it does not drink like it.
I will say, I've had some good Bernheim stuff, especially when I did like the barrel your own and you got to try them all.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. But wheat whiskey is weird.
It is. And we have to remember, too, that when you are tasting a wheated bourbon or a wheat whiskey, what you are actually tasting is not sweetness because of the wheat. You are tasting sweetness because of the absence of rye.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if it's a predominantly corn mash bill, or as the flavoring agent, then that's going to be what is providing the sweetness. However, to my discerning palate in this case, I think that it's mostly barley. Because I get a lot of like single malt vibes going on with it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It's not my favorite. I don't hate it, but I feel like there's room for improvement.
What is this?
This is the Heaven Hill Heritage Collection 18-year-old bourbon.
I fell right into that trap.
You did. You did.
120 proof.
Yeah, dude.
Okay, this is top 10 contender right
This is. Oh, we got to pull out the Elijah Craig
here. Oh, the one that
from last week.
we
That's
were
also
so
18 years old.
disappointed.
Yep. See if it's opened up at all.
That's the
And I
same
mean,
mash
this
bill as
is a
that?
batch. Excuse me. Yes, it is the same mash bill.
Is it because they proofed down the Elijah Craig?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know.
This is delicious.
Oh, it's infinitely better than what we tried last week.
All right. If you're not caught up or you just skipped to this episode, me and Perry, we put our money together and bought a Elijah Craig 18 because everything's so expensive these days. We can't afford stuff on our own.
To be fair, this has always kind of been on the higher price side of things. So,
but you saw it, and like it's a little bit more expensive than normal, but we split it.
yeah, because
Bottled 9/18/23, so 18 years, and we were not impressed.
barreled in 2005, I think is what we said.
We've had better.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the single barrel proofed down version of what we just had, the Heritage Collection.
Oh yeah, if you're watching, people are always like, "Show us the bottle." Here you go.
I do love the bottle.
I do love the bottle. I always forget to show stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
we had that.
Let's see.
We had that. We had that.
Audio listeners love you to death.
Yeah.
But we've got one that is on the table that we haven't gotten to yet. It still smells bad.
Not good.
It still smells bad.
It smells sour.
It smells
we got a
like
bad
cat
bottle.
litter. I think we did too.
How can we exchange this? Can we take this to Heaven Hill? You know people at Heaven Hill. Oh shit.
Oh,
It's got worse. It tastes like the cat litter.
You know when people say who peed in your Cheerios?
Oh, this is piss.
This is piss in your Cheerios.
No, we got to do something about this. This is atrocious. I saw that flicker in your eye.
Remember the French oak chips?
No.
Oh,
No.
okay.
No. We're not making this into something. We're going to the top.
Okay.
We're going to the top.
All right.
And whoever we got to step on to get to the top is getting stepped on. This is not right. Something is wrong with this. If you're listening and you have Elijah Craig 18, barrel 6553, please try it and tell us that we're not crazy. Something's wrong here.
Yeah.
We've been duped.
We've been schmeckeldorfed.
We're going to the top. Who's that guy that runs Heaven Hill?
Max Shapira?
Bernie Lubbers or something?
Bernie doesn't run Heaven Hill.
He's the only one people talk about. He plays guitar and stuff, sings a song.
Yeah, he had a gig on Bottled and Bond Day.
So did I.
Being a dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, 24/7. No, something's wrong with this.
Yeah, we'll figure something
We're getting
out.
to the top of this. My goal is to get us an explanation or a new bottle. This is my goal.
Okay.
You got to help me, though.
What have you been drinking recently?
What have I been drinking? Maker's Mark.
Me
What is-
too.
What?
You know why I've been drinking Maker's Mark?
Why?
Well, first of all, because I just love
this
cast
is
strength.
better than cellar aged.
Yeah, but also,
Yeah,
I didn't notice until I opened this bottle.
What?
Cast strength has a cork now,
When?
as of like mid last year, apparently.
Because they saw all the videos of everybody trying to pop the cork, and it was a
It was a
screw
screw
top.
top. Yeah,
Oh.
exactly. Yeah. Which makers have you been drinking?
Regular. Me and Dashy Boy, who made a appearance in the chat on your live stream.
That is true.
we went to Lexington Comic-Con this weekend, or this past weekend. And the good thing about Lexington Comic-Con, they got a bar.
Yes, they do.
And you can get you a drink and walk around and all that. I had a little bit of MGP. Text Perry this. I was in line to get into LexCon, and I had a little bit of MGP in my coffee cup just because, LexCon day, it's like vacation.
Well,
I can do whatever I want.
We had also recorded the night before. Yeah. That was last week's episode.
I had to
and
get going
late. And
what's that Dingleberry of the dog thing or whatever?
Hair of the dog.
Yeah, that thing.
Dingleberry of the dog.
I don't know. Either way, at LexCon, at the food court area, they had a little bar section, and they had Jack Daniels, Jim Beam White Label, and Maker's Mark.
Maker's Mark all day long.
Maker's Mark all day. I got a little neat pour of Maker's while I ate some brisket nachos.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Then when we went back to do the last couple of rounds on the floor, I got a little Maker's and Coke. So I was all Maker's up on Saturday. I love Maker's. I think it's one of the best event sports, whatever. Like when WWE's in town, Rupp Arena always has the little bars and stuff. Always get a Maker's Mark there, Maker's Diet or something like that. I think Maker's is just legit. I think the red wax and everything is just the best. People just know it.
A ringing endorsement.
Yeah, they just know it. Maker's Mark, sponsor us.
A heritage brand.
Yeah. The only other thing I had
Jim Beam.
Jim Beam. They ain't gonna make no friggin' stupid wax on there. I had a midweek pour of something I'm not allowed to talk about. Only Perry's had it. Suck it. Sorry. And then I had a little bit of 1792 Foolproof at Banners last night. Banners Pick. It's one of my favorites, and it's a special right now. They keep it on the special, and it's $6 for and they don't measure at Banners. I don't think.
Yeah, I know.
They just pour you a big pour, and it can last the whole evening. So, yeah. But I think Maker's Mark was the highlight, just being at Comic-Con. We always love going to Comic-Con. It is a little crowded, but it's fun. Now my youngest is getting into collectibles and wanting to see cosplay and all that stuff. So it was fun being at LexCon this past weekend.
Yeah, we had talked about going this year, but we just kind of got busy. Taking the podcast there is what I mean. Like we did in 22? Is that when we did it? Yeah, because we didn't do it
the year
last
before.
year. We didn't do it last year, right?
It was my first year, I think.
Your first full year. Yeah. 22. It doesn't matter.
Either way.
Yeah, I had wanted to go, and I definitely regretted.
Saw the original strawberry shortcake.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Apparently, they had to move her to a area that had more space because they put her in the corner at the beginning.
And she was that popular?
And she was so popular that it was backing up all the other lines.
Wow.
Yeah. So shout out to strawberry shortcake.
Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely regretted not going because that was the same weekend, of course, last week when Akira Toriyama passed away. Okay.
Keep talking.
He's leaving. Okay. Well, anyway. Yeah, I because there were members of the cast and other Dragon Ball folks that were there. So it was kind of a bummer that we didn't go. But at the same time, I mean, I've only got so much energy and time, I suppose. And it just didn't quite work out the way I'd wanted it to. Eric's bringing something in that's super cool.
Yeah, so I got a box set of manga, Chainsaw Man manga, but I also got this. It was my favorite booths where they put one of the main songs of a series or something on there and they had everything.
It's just so cool.
And I sent Perry this. And look, Dragon Ball Z.
It's the sheet music for the theme song.
And this is yours.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I got it for you.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. Got it for your basement studio.
Thank you.
I knew I forgot to do something. I was going to surprise you on there. So I also got myself the Cowboy Bebop and the Trigun one. I got April Little Mermaid, but I got you that one.
Thanks, man.
One of my favorite things is giving gifts live on the episode because neither one of us.
Neither of us are good with
We're like, good, thanks. I don't know what to say.
I'll think about this later.
But yeah, it's yours.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Chala and chala.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
There you go. What have you been drinking? You talk about it already?
I mean,
this is really good.
That's really the only thing of note that I can think of.
This is better than Cellar Age.
Yeah, it's way better than Cellar Age.
Way better.
You got some over there too that we can compare it to, but I don't know. We got things we got to do.
Yeah, we probably got to get through this.
I mean, honestly, that's really been about it. I have had a really busy week. Just was not conducive to drinking.
Yeah.
Either. So. Oh, you know what?
What?
The only other thing
What
that that was the sheet music that you.
Oh,
it just kind of scraped against the ground.
Samurai, like scraping the side. Like,
we'll talk about samurais in a little bit. The only other thing really of note that I've been drinking on is the Maker's Wood Finishing Series BEP.
BB8?
BEP.
BEP.
When was the last time you had this?
I don't remember.
I thought this was still at my grandparents' house.
Dude, you got whiskey
so I kind
everywhere.
I really do. I'm turning into the Aussies. You know how Chris and Lil are always like, yeah,
Hey,
there's
you're
our
holding that
bunker
bottle.
in Chicago and our bunker in
Hey,
DC.
we go pick this up
We got a bunker in Albuquerque for some reason. But yeah, this was just in one of the boxes that I had brought to our house.
Surprise whiskey.
And always a really nice thing when you have surprise whiskey. And I was like, well, I should pour a little bit of it.
This was the special 2023. 110.7. What was this one?
111.
111.
Stave details, 10 virgin toasted American oak staves. And I think that's it. I think it's just their bourbon with those finishing staves.
With a special name.
BEP.
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 Smells good. It smells like an older wheated whiskey.
Yeah.
That's better than cellar aged.
Yes, but I still like the cast strength better. This, to me, the BEP to me reads like a finished 6-year-old bourbon. Cast strength is just straight up
Finished.
7-year-old.
Finished in what?
Well, it's got the oak staves with it,
Finished
right?
in oak staves. Okay.
Yeah. Whereas the cast strength is just through and through, like clear cut, amazing cast
Wheated
strength
bourbon.
7-year-old bourbon.
Yeah. I agree. I think the more I drink this, if you're just listening, the cast strength Maker's Mark, the more I just want to have this. The more I just want to have this all the time.
It's now like a bar cart pour for me. It just is. It is that good. It's that much better than regular Makers too.
Yeah.
You know, and it's incredibly affordable. It's $40.
Yep.
And it's just great.
There's nothing else to say. It's just great.
Yeah. So anyway,
Well, that's awesome.
yeah.
It's a nice little surprise.
Yeah. Hadn't had it in a while. Figured I'd bring it out for you to try.
I like it.
Folks, we are very fortunate. We're very excited to be welcoming to the podcast the new master distiller for New Riff, one of our favorite distilleries out there, honestly. Mr. Brian Sprance. Brian, thank you so much for being on the podcast with us.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Wanted to kind of kick things off by talking a bit about your background, not just with New Riff, but within the bourbon industry and distilling. So I'm going to turn it over to you to kind of introduce your pedigree to everybody.
Sure. So I was actually in the brewing industry for about 15 years before taking the job at New Riff Distilling. I worked at a smaller craft brewery in Cincinnati called the Barrel House Brewing Company for about 9 years. It was one of the first kind of what they called microbreweries back in the day in Cincinnati. I think we topped out at about 4,000 barrels per year production, which is pretty small, relatively speaking, to what some of the bigger distiller or breweries put out now. But I tell people a lot of times, a lot of what I learned at the small craft brewery that I worked at was kind of the arts and the creative side of brewing. I was there for 9 years, and eventually the brewery was sold to another gentleman whose vision was a little bit different than our previous owner. So I decided to kind of look around and see what was available. And again, this was very early on, kind of in like the craft brewing scene in Cincinnati. So there wasn't a lot of places to look around. Fortunately for me, there was a really big brewery right up the road from the Barrel House called Samuel Adams, aka Austin Beer. So when you go from something like 2,500 barrels of beer to, I think probably almost 1 million barrels of beer. I think I learned more of like kind of the scientific side of brewing and kind of the process management and people management and things like that. I stayed there for another 6 years. And at that point, I'd been in beer for, like I said, 15 years, and I was kind of looking for a new adventure, if you will. I had this sticky little thing that I did not see in my employment packet when you take a new job and you sign all those documents. I think the second to the last piece of paper I signed was a non-compete. It was for 18 months in the brewing industry, so not a lot of options there. Kind of serendipitously got a call from my very good friend Mitch Doherty, who had taken a job with Ken Lewis, the owner of New Riff Distilling. They were opening up a brewery in the back of the Party Source called 8 Ball. And he basically told me what Ken's vision, along with Larry Ebersold, was that they wanted to find a brewer that had the kind of small brewery experience coupled with the kind of, professional side of like managing people and processes, all the fun things that go into like making, so much beer. I didn't drink whiskey, the most that I had like ever like really got into to bourbon was really tasting barrel aged beers. But, at first, honestly, I told him I was not interested in sitting down and talking about the job. I was like, hey, man, I make beer and that's how it goes. And I'll be a brewer for the rest of my life. He kept bugging me. And one of the things that he said to me that really stuck with me in the end was he said, if you don't take this job, or if you don't at least sit down and like explore the options with Ken, it's going to be someone, and you're going to regret not sitting there and having this conversation.
Sure.
So that was enough for me to move forward. I sat down with Ken Lewis, and the minute I sat down, the guy's a genius, a legend, recently retired. I hope we don't miss him too much. We hope he doesn't stay super retired and still comes out and hangs out with us. But really, when we sat down and had lunch, and he kind of like laid out what his vision for the future was, a very small startup, 7 or 8 of us at the time. Not a single person had any experience making whiskey. Obviously, from the retail side, Ken and co-founder Jay Arisman, who was Ken's, I think it was fine spirits manager / buyer at the Party Source, has an excellent palate for whiskey and kind of helped Ken along with the vision of the distillery. Once we sat down and really like started talking to them, no one has any experience. We're gonna survive. We're going to accomplish everything together, whether it's good or bad. We're going to kind of succeed or fail. And I was 36 years old at that time. And I think about probably the best age to really want to start to jump into a startup. I mean, it was a scrappy startup. Obviously, we were very well funded with Ken's past career as a retailer, owning, I think, one of the biggest beverage alcohol stores in the U.S. But what really, really excited me was to be part of a startup team and really work and build something from the ground up. So that's kind of the long story of how I ended up at New Riff in late 2013. I was also able to kind of sit here at the end stage of construction as well, kind of give my 2 cents on a few things as well. Got to see some pretty amazing things like beer stills being delivered and craned into the building and all kinds of stuff like that. So that was kind of my path to getting into the distilling industry, was not through the distilling industry at all. I was lucky that they wanted to find someone that had a lot of fermentation experience, but again, they wanted somebody that understood fermentation, yeast, things like that. I came with pretty much zero knowledge base of tasting whiskey, making whiskey. So I wasn't going to come here and make something that I learned how to make somewhere else. So, it seemed like a pretty big leap of faith. But once I met Ken, and then obviously knowing Larry Ebersold, who was the master distiller over at Seagram's for 25 years, he had recently retired and had played a pretty big role in kind of the design of the distillery from the ground up. Knowing that somebody that experienced was going to help me start up, I was all in at that point. So,
that leap of faith, I feel like, has been really well reflected in the experimentation that has taken place at New Riff, from attempting to make and succeeding as well whiskey out of these heirloom grains and trying to incorporate even whiskey making in a broader sense outside of American whiskey into the profile, into the product catalog of New Riff, and it kind of sounds like, even if you didn't have that like confidence in yourself to be able to do that, there was the confidence with the people around you to be able to make that into a success. How did that translate into your means of innovation in some ways as a distiller with New Riff?
Sure. I found it pretty common in the brewing industry. A lot of my friends, colleagues, peers, a lot of what you heard was, I just want to be given a creative license. I want to do what I want to do. When you come from like a corporate background, where, if you want to change like the hop profile of a beer or something, you don't just make those changes on the fly. You run it up the flagpole. There's certain, everyone's got to sign off on it, and not necessarily a bad thing at all. But coming somewhere like New Riff, where Ken knew nothing about making whiskey and knew even less about like some of the things that I was talking about, he just kind of looked at me and said, I hired you to do the job. If you want to do these things, I suggest you go for them and kind of find your own path. Having no experience in the whiskey making process, I think led me to probably be a little bit more brave, honestly, than I should have been in the beginning. I didn't know any better or any worse. So I knew from my training, from Larry, running stills and getting that stuff really up and balanced. One of the few things that he left me with, sorry, that's probably worded incorrectly, of all the great things he left me with, there's a few things that really stuck out with us.
He's also still with us, right? Like, yes. He has okay. He's not passed on.
No. He is. He's very much alive. He was in the building last Sunday for some cocktails, and
unless that's breaking news that we're just uncovering here on the podcast somehow.
Yeah, it is not. No offense to you guys. If that happened today, I wouldn't be here. Alive and well.
I completely understand.
Florida and golfing.
There you go.
Yeah, like in the beginning, it was, be consistent. Let's stick to a bourbon recipe and a rye recipe. Stick with one type of barrel. And, when you start up a distillery, we use all open fermentation. So as you start getting things going and fermentations going, we have open windows, kind of like the flora and the fauna, the terroir, people call it. Like, it really did take a minute to kind of set in and kind of give us that kind of geographical flavor profile. I think that comes out of kind of open fermentation and kind of the whiskey making process at New Riff. So we stuck with one bourbon and one rye whiskey recipe for, I think, 2 or 3 months. Same barrel type as well. And I think it was the Thursday before the Thanksgiving week. We ran out of barrels. We were still a relatively new company, so we weren't able to get as many barrels as we wanted. So we said, hey, let's shut down. A very big part of how we make whiskey at New Riff is sour mash. So when you shut a distillery down, you don't have any stillage left over. So we started up. The very first batch of whiskey we ever made at New Riff was actually a corn whiskey. It was kind of a sacrificial whiskey, if you will, to get that stillage, the sour mash, the back for our actual first batch of bourbon. So we're actually serving that up at our newly remodeled aquifer. It's like a Boilermaker. It's a little King's beer and a 9-year-old corn whiskey.
Oh,
okay.
Anyway, so when we started up the week after Thanksgiving, we had no stillage, we had no backset, so we had to make another sacrificial corn whiskey. At that time, I had already started like having some designs on wanting to like start playing around with some of the malted barley varieties that I was very familiar with from my brewing background. So I knew that we weren't ever really going to be like a corn whiskey. It was never going to be like one of our core products.
Sure.
They're sacrificial whiskeys to get what we think is the best whiskey making process for us. So what I did was I think a corn whiskey's got to be 81% corn, the other 19%. I put some roasted barley in there. I used some chocolate malt in there. I used a lot of the darker roasted malts. I wanted to see what the still was going to do with it, how it would come off the doubler. My main concern when we really started making whiskey was some of these darker, like more like malted grains. Barley has a husk on it, and my main concern was that we have live steam going through a baffle in the bottom of our beer still. I was not scared, but concerned that we were going to start stripping some of this tannic quality out of like some of these grains. So not play around with the sacrificial corn whiskey. The beer still and the doubler were totally happy with it. The resulting distillate, while don't get me wrong, it's not my favorite whiskey that we ever made. I think that was kind of the proving ground for, we can ramp this all the way up to include putting chocolate malt through the beer still. So once we were confident enough with seeing really what our distillation system was capable of with all these malted barleys, that's really was the jumping off point. So shortly thereafter, I asked Larry, hey man, what was like the favorite whiskey you ever made in your career? And he said that I think it was during one of their like planned shutdowns, they had a silo of unmalted rye that they were like, hey, let's malt this silo of rye. And they actually made a 100% malted rye whiskey at Seagram's. Now the bean counters got a hold of that one and they were like, this is the most expensive whiskey you ever made. And if I'm not mistaken, like I think that might have also been the genesis of kind of the creation of the 95.5 recipe that Larry and his team developed at Seagram's back in the day. Anyway, long story made short, again, we made that 100% malted rye whiskey. And I thought to myself, if we're going to put 100% malted rye whiskey through the still, why don't we try 100% malted barley? And I wanted to play it a little bit conservative. So we went with a barley variety called Maris Otter, which is used a lot in kind of English style beers.
Okay.
A lot of Scottish whiskey distilleries use it as their base malt as well. And they both came out. We were really, really pleased with how they both came out. So then the next step was to like kind of go back to our, we used to have these production meetings and I'd be like, I have some success stories, Ken, like check out this, check out that. He didn't know what I was talking about. He's like, you guys have money. I was like, yeah. He's like, all right, well, if you want to continue to do some of this stuff. And again, like I never had to ask permission to do anything here. I wouldn't say that like we were always doing all this like crazy R&D. I want to say that we were doing pretty controlled experimentation because of the experience I had with working with so many of these malted barley varieties. So then, we started making like kind of barley wine inspired single malt whiskey. And these were all blends that eventually went into our malt whiskey program. But it also kind of was the impetus to start putting some of the different grains into our standard bourbon. and rye mash bills as well. And that's when we transitioned over to using 5% malted rye in our rye whiskey. And we've used so many different varieties, whether they're heirloom unmalted grains that our farmer Charles Fogg in Indiana grows for us, or if they're just specialty malts that are available mostly to the brewing community. We were fairly confident that we'd proven that we can make, to our liking, in our opinion, very good distillate out of these different things that aren't. You're seeing them probably pop up a lot more. But at the time when we were playing with some of this stuff, there wasn't really like a guide to like, hey, this is what you'll see. These are the pros, these are the cons. And again, it's like, I think probably the best word is like, we were naive, man. We didn't know better. And we were given the license to like be brave and to create. And, so much of the whiskey that we've made here is it's such a credit to Ken of like letting us do these things. It's not that price was like never not a consideration, but it was always like, if you think this will improve the whiskey, the taste, then he was always like very supportive of it. Some of the barrels that we've used throughout the years, they're not the most cost effective things, but they're all things that we believe would make better whiskey, better bourbon, better rye, better malt whiskey, and things like that. So it was just a very like scaled up approach to really how we started working with so many of these things. And once we got some of these like really funky, like kind of weird malt whiskey batches under our belt, and we're really happy with it, that's when we didn't really have any other parameters or guidelines. We're just going to keep doing what we want to do at that point.
I find it interesting talking about the kind of experimentation with some of these excuse me, heirloom grains that really did eventually lead to quite successful products, and just kind of as a proof of concept, that whether it's meeting the bottom line or proving to owners and business partners that what you're doing is working. It seems like, and the internet is kind of a fickle place in this day and age, but we just saw the labels for Old New Riff come through the TTB for the bourbon and the rye, and those both use these heirloom grains. I'm curious about the development of those products, and for anybody who doesn't know, this is not yet something that is on the market, and I'm not even sure that it's going to be widely available. It could be something that's just at the distillery too, depending on your all's production cycle. But was this a natural progression for you all when it came to developing something that felt like a cohesive product based on everything you'd done before?
Yeah, another good question. As kind of most things with New Riff, one of Ken's favorite words was organic, and a lot of like these whiskey projects have kind of organically presented themselves. Our first real foray into making whiskey with heirloom grains was when our farmer Charles Fogg called. And he said, hey, typically I grow a variety of rye as ground cover in the winter. And it was called Balboa rye. Would you guys ever be interested in trying to make whiskey with this rye? It's not something I harvest. It's
Thank God you did.
It's something that I use as the ground cover. Is it something you guys would be interested in? We said, sure. He harvested, we brought it in, and it was one of those things where we made one batch of it. Evaluated the distillate. We were like, this is pretty good. Not only was it pretty good, it was like substantially different than our standard rye whiskey. We just expected, honestly, to like have another like spice bomb come off the still, but like it was very fruit forward with like more of a balanced like spice to it. So after we did that, and then kind of like as these things organically happen at New Riff, like the same with these whiskeys, we made a batch of it, which made about 13 barrels. And then at New Riff, when like you kind of graduate, when we're happy, like, oh, this whiskey, it's going to get to the second grade now.
Right.
Kind of like it would graduate, and we would make what we used to call back in the day, like we would make a day of it, which was, roughly 40 barrels of it. So as we kind of stepped up the production of Balboa, that's when we really started getting wild with it. Jay Erisman, again, our co-founder, he has like such a profound like knowledge and understanding of not only like history and agriculture and, whiskey making. He's into the slow food movement and stuff like that. He really started looking into like some of the options that we could find out. And, when we started looking at it, we said, hey, why don't we just call Charles? Again, we didn't know any better. So we called Charles and we're like, hey, it's us again. You want to grow us stuff? And he was like, I'll give it a shot. And then when we started growing some of these heirloom corn, mostly the heirloom corn, they turned out super, super well. They're expensive to grow because, genetics and everything else like that. Everything today is bred for, yield. And these were very much going back to like kind of the old school, like where it was these grains were grown for flavor, not starch content and things like that. So over the years, the whiskeys that have come out under the heirloom have been like blue claridge and yellow leaming and things like that. Specifically speaking to the use of those heirloom grains and how that's translated into the old New Riff things were, all right, well, we have all these old grains, let's start looking through some of the history books, if you will,
Sure.
See what we can find. The internet's a wild place, but it is good for a few good things.
Yeah.
Research being one of them. But we just kind of we called them like old timey kind of old school whiskey production methods of like, we'd never made a rye whiskey with corn, and we used a more traditional kind of 2-row barley, something that we imagined that they would have used back in the day. I don't know if we're necessarily like recreating anything that's going to be like comparable. Again, it's a 6-year-old whiskey, and I think the real focus on it is kind of what we call the old timey techniques. The barrels, before they were coopered, they spent 24 months air drying. They were expensive barrels, but we worked with a couple different coopers to kind of say, how would you have made a barrel back in the day without this, like all the technological advances, if you will. So then, part of the old New Riff, it's kind of a tongue in cheek because, we didn't really want to call it like, I don't know.
Old
that's marketing.
Yeah.
But incorporating some of those production techniques that we thought were kind of fairly historically accurate, as well as with the barrels and things like that. We cut them to a lower proof, something that we thought would be similar to how they would proof whiskey going into the barrel.
Right.
We skipped. Usually we use RO water to cut all of our whiskey after we've distilled it off when we're cutting down to barrel proof. But they didn't have RO water systems back then. We're assuming they just used the cleanest water, the cleanest potable water they could find.
Buckets.
I couldn't tell you where they got their water
Exactly.
from. But, we used the water from our well to cut it down, and we did find some kind of historical references that said like old whiskey was sometimes barreled about 102 to 105. So we actually went at about 103 in there as well, and kind of just set them aside for all these years. And it's been something that we haven't recreated these whiskeys each and every year, but we have in some form made most of these whiskeys over the course of the years. We've made things with Bloody Butcher corn. We've used Kentucky Rainbow corn. I don't know if you've ever seen Kentucky Rainbow corn. It literally.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It looks like rainbow corn. The stuff is beautiful when you have it on the cob, and then. Right. Oh my gosh! Like when we get shipped like 2,200 pound super sacks of it from the farmer, and we opened them up, and it was just like it was the coolest thing we ever saw.
Yeah.
Like honestly, if it's something that like Charles Fogg is able to grow, again, kind of in quantity and quality, then we're always willing to kind of figure out a home for it and incorporate it into the whiskeys. But again, it kind of tells the organic kind of way that like things happen here. We started with Balboa rye, and it's ended up with like kind of this new release.
Yeah.
And speaking to the quantities, there is plenty of the releases that are coming out.
Sure.
The old New Riff. So
yeah,
plenty to go around.
I always called when I was growing up rainbow corn squirrel corn.
Yes.
Because it was it was like to get the squirrels into your yard, but then very quickly they tasted that and they're like, we can't go back to that house. But that does bring up something I'm curious about as well for you as a distiller. Has there been anything that you were particularly excited about from a distilling perspective that just didn't quite work out for you when it actually came to practice?
Yeah. I mean, yes.
Fair enough.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm human. I am flawed. I do a couple things in this life really, really well, and most of the rest of it mediocre. One project that does come to mind was, we were feeling pretty heady, and we were feeling ourselves after some of like the successes of incorporating different malted barley varieties, kind of building a malt whiskey program in Kentucky from the ground up like we did. So we're like, all right, well, the final frontier is obviously malting corn. I have had malted corn bourbons that I've enjoyed. Personally, the malted corn bourbon that we made, it was, I think the best thing I can say about it was the yield was all right. It was, corn is a very hard ingredient. I don't think they were able to drive the moisture down enough into the corn. So then after the malting process, there was just too much, the moisture content was too high. And what happens is you start getting kind of like moldy grain. We didn't notice it when it came in. We were like, it was something that we had never smelled before. I mean, I've been trained in depth on like what must and kind of dirt and earth, the things that you don't really want out of your materials and things like that. So I just kind of chalked it up to this is the new frontier of this. There's a reason people don't make malted corn bourbon.
And this was after the malted rye, I assume, right? Like the 6-year malted rye, because that bottle to this day is one of my favorite whiskeys of all time.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
That's another thing that grew throughout the years. It started as it got a day to we're going to make 100 barrels of it now we just directly import the malted rye directly from Germany. We get a bit of a cost savings as well, but we make it in such quantities now that like it made sense to actually go straight to the maltster. So we work with them directly as well. So I appreciate the comments. I love our rye whiskeys that we make here, all of them, and that's typically what I'm drinking at home. I am pretty excited about the 8-year-old bourbon that we put out, but if you catch me on a normal day, it's probably rye whiskey in my glass. But yeah, there's been a few. I don't want to sit here and toot my horn too much about how we failed. We did some pretty great stuff, but we've dared to do some what we thought were very innovative, like exciting projects, and not everything's going to work out.
Sure.
So,
I think you should toot your horn more because, like, as I've been listening to this, like, you went from the coolest thing to me is you went from a brewery to never making whiskey to making, like, we're in 2024 and New Riff is like legit. Like, they're like, I look over at my shelf, like, I keep looking and I was like, what can I ask him about? It's just, I got a whole shelf of just like single barrels and malted rye and Balboa and all the stuff we were talking about. Like, you did it, man. Like, it's so cool to hear that you took your first job basically making whiskey and you built this and you made great whiskey. There's other brands that like they have a master distiller here and then another distiller comes from another brand and all that. Like, you started it. You started there and like here we are talking and you've made some legit like great shit, man. Like it's awesome. Like,
I appreciate it. I mean, again, it's a credit to Ken Lewis, to his vision, the entrepreneurial spirit that has allowed it. There's just, I can't speak enough. I love being a part of this team. Like, people always ask me like what my favorite thing about New Riff is, and like throughout the years, like every single thing was new and we figured it out as like a startup to all the way to like, I had training in Larry. We had great equipment made by Vendome. But at the end of the day, like I wasn't going to fail for lack of trying. Like I was willing to put the 100 hours in when we started up. Like I always like, fear's a pretty good motivator. I was terrified. So I was also willing, ready, and able to put the work in. But also like, the distilling industry is very similar to the brewing industry as to where you've got that mental Rolodex of like, you can call people and be like, hey, have you seen this? Or have you seen that? And things like that. I'm also extremely lucky to have, again, Larry 20 minutes down the road that still like has become a dear friend as to where he comes in now. And it's not the first couple of years, it was tasting some whiskeys with us, making sure that we were on the right track. I think he really just kind of like stopped like being worried and more being excited for when we were going to put whiskey out when we hit that 2-year mark when it was a straight whiskey. And it started to develop, it started to kind of show you what it was going to be in a couple more years. And then, we just all got really excited after that. I mean, and again, like 2018, like when we were putting together like some of the blends for the first, bottled and bond products, bourbon specifically.
Yeah.
It was terrifying. I mean, I did not sleep well for months. And like, honestly, like after we put out whiskey, like I didn't like go into this deep depression, but I was just like,
what do I do next?
that was a lot to go through.
Sure. Yeah.
I joke now, but I'm like, this could have gone so horribly wrong. But, also like we were like a very weird size when we opened up in 2014. So like there was a lot of interest from like the heritage distillery. So like come up and like, we run 24-inch beer still. Like it just sounds like a weird thing to these guys that were 72 and 96-inch stills. So
right.
Pretty lucky also to have a lot of like the distillers from Wild Turkey and Makers and Buffalo Trace and Four Roses. Like they would come up and, they're like, can you show us around? I'm more than happy to show you around for 90 minutes, but then like, we're going to sit in the sensory room and I'm going to like say, I want like legit, like critiques whiskey that we're making. And if you've ever met some of these like old timey distillers, they're not shy with their opinions and stuff like that. So they didn't throw the whiskey when they didn't throw the whiskey into our faces or spit it back at us. I was like, all right, I think we're making quality distillate. And again, like our processes are so tight now. There's so much that we have to be consistent in because at the end of the day, we're going to put this like really like kind of aggressive corn-based or rye-based distillate into a tree that got chopped down and lit on fire. And then you're expecting this like magical transformation. But, for us, like the focus has always been like upfront on raw materials, what we're sourcing. We run our distillery lab like a brewery would. We're checking all of our numbers every day. We're doing incoming checks on all of our raw materials. So the consistency side of how we make whiskey, all the way from raw material, all the way to the barrel that we're putting the distillate in, all the way to the rick house. So we now have access to we did have access to a 5-story rick house. We've filled that and we've moved on to our next building. But yeah, like just to have the absolute utmost focus on quality, I believe is like kind of giving us the big edge to making very good tasting whiskey at 4 years old. A lot of people within the company here, I think it's true. They would say that one of the best compliments that we got over the course of the years is, man, I can't believe the whiskey's so good for being a 4-year-old whiskey. I think it's just a credit to patience. It's to Ken. It's to kind of just the consistency of our procedures here. And just, we have been able, I tell people as well, we're spoiled brats. We're allowed to just chase quality down wherever it takes us. And it's not like nothing is off limits, but if it's always in the search of like making better whiskey, it's never really a question. So it takes literally a small army to make the amount of whiskey that we make at New Riff.
Sure. It's funny because back in 2018, when the Bottled and Bond did come out, Eric wasn't part of the show at that point. Yeah. But I do remember reviewing that original batch and saying that exact thing. I can't believe that this is 4-year-old bourbon. And, it's not to say that I don't love what somebody at Wilderness Trail is doing, right? Because you all came out with products basically at the same time. Your first bourbons on the market. But with Wilderness Trail, my reaction was, this is really good at 4 years. I can't wait to see what it's like at 5, at 6, so on and so on. But I just remember being so satisfied with a 4-year-old bourbon that was coming out of New Riff and just being like, this feels like a game changer, right? And again, I think it goes back to, the more we talk about this too, the more I feel like the company slogan, a new riff on an old tradition, feels more and more appropriate because you all do seem to just exude this confidence, in the product that you're making. And, you know, yeah, even if it is just quality on quality, I mean, that does just prove that y'all have the right heads on your shoulders. You know, I mean, you know what you're doing. And so, you know, even to have the foresight to put out an 8-year-old bourbon, you know, and just know that, you know, it you know what it's going to be like, or you know that it's at least going to be of the same quality 4 years down the road. You know, I think that speaks so much to what you all are doing at New Riff.
I appreciate that. Like, you know, it's also people, you know, the best compliment we got is, I can't believe it tastes this good at 4 years old. Some of the comments that we're actually getting on the 8-year-old whiskey, which I'll preface that by saying we're extremely happy where the whiskey is at 8 years old, because we still think it's a vibrant, it's weird to call an 8-year-old whiskey like kind of young tasting, but we feel like where it's at 8 years old, it's going to lend itself to like some additional aging where it will do very well. Like, we don't think there's anything too oaky. Still a lot of really nice dark fruits on the 8-year-old as well. But I think like some of the rye spice, it's not necessarily faded, but it's become more integrated and balanced with some of the wood spice as well. But it's like a vibrant, like lively, like 8-year-old whiskey, which really does give us hope for, you know, 10-year-old, 12-year-old. I mean, we would love to put out a 15-year-old whiskey if it was, you know, to our liking, to our quality. And, you know, I mean, people have also asked us, why'd you wait so long to put out older whiskey? We could have put out a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old, yada, yada, yada. We always, you know, wanted to make sure the bills were paid. We're always under construction with rick houses and bottling lines and all of that stuff. We wanted to, when we came out with an age-stated older whiskey, we wanted to have not only the quantity to spread around and fill some of the distribution footprint that we're in, but also to have the quality. And when you hold 20 to 30% back from each year's production, it takes a minute to kind of build your pile of barrels that you start working with. So we're going to have 2 releases of this 8-year-old this year. There'll be some rye coming out as well. And then we'll see what happens next year. But this is going to be a big year for us. The turning point, I think, is really in releasing kind of like our next like core product, which is like an age stated. You know, we're big on age statements around here. We're proud of waiting till 4. We're proud of slapping an 8 on there, and we can't wait to, you know, start putting some older numbers on some of these bottles as well. You know, there's 9-year-old whiskey in this 8-year-old whiskey as well. So, and we'll have 10-year-old whiskey in our warehouse in June 24th. I know these
teasing me.
I can't tell you when my birthday is, but I can tell you like the exact location of the rick house and what the barrel number is and everything like that.
It don't matter about birthdays after you start getting into bourbon and stuff. Like, we're all the same age.
Yeah,
man, we're all the same age. We just love bourbon and whiskey.
Well, we're going to get to actually reviewing the 8-year here in a little bit. Once the it smells
delicious.
It does. We like to do reviews separate from interviews, of course, because you know. But it is exciting to me, at least, to to have this in the glass and to have the first experience with it. Look at that. Yeah. The first experience
prepared. He knows what he's doing.
Is that I can't believe that this is just 8 years old. I mean, on first glance, first nosing, it feels so robust. It seems so much more similar to. I mean, we just as we were getting into this episode, we were tasting the 18-year Heaven Hill Heritage Collection release that just came out, and it does have that same oaky, grapey is what we kind of use as a descriptor sometimes when we were talking about more oak influenced products. Yeah, but it has that note to it as well.
Yeah, it's like butterscotch and like grape jelly. Like, I don't know, it just smells dark, and that's one of my favorite notes. Is not even like a specific like food or like a flavor. It's just like if you smell something and it smells dark, you're like, okay, here we go. Like, this is like, I'm ready for this. Yeah. So.
We get a lot of dark cherries and a lot of berries and to your point, some of the I know it sounds a little bit of an odd descriptor, but kind of buttercream on the finish as well.
Yes,
You're talking about language.
absolutely.
When we started, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, I meant to mention this up top, but one of my favorite things about New Riff is the single barrel program. We've done picks and stuff, but like letting the people who help pick the samples put their notes on there. Like, there's very few people that I've went to in like big companies that say like, oh, this tastes like a Swiss roll cake or something. Because I love snacks. I love snacks and bourbon and doing all that stuff. And to be tasting a sample and to be like, oh, this person thought it tasted like a little Debbie cake. Like, that's it right there for me. Like, I think it's great. And like when you say dark notes and like butterscotch and buttercream, like I love tasting stuff that tastes like desserts and cakes and stuff like that.
Salted caramel is another big one I get out of some of the bourbons as well. It took like some calibration. We're so used to, we have such a robust single barrel program that we still pull a sample of every barrel for every month of production. So like right now, we're tasting barrels that we were actually laughing about this earlier. We're tasting barrels that we made from March 2020, and we're looking at the dates. We're like, oh man, this is COVID whiskey. Like,
oh yeah,
this is whiskey that was made like during the shutdown, like where we were trying to figure out like,
what's next?
Are we essential employees? Like, are we? I don't know.
Depends on who you ask.
Anything.
You got through COVID.
I immediately said, we're gonna teach ourselves. We're gonna learn how to make hand sanitizer so we can keep making it.
Right.
It's like when our first set of samples came in for March, we're like, that's kind of a light month, and then I was like, oh. Like it was like the middle of the month where everyone went home and we were obviously closed, and it was just the distillers running wild in here making whiskey and having a good time. Like, kind of like, is this it?
Yeah.
What's gonna happen here?
Let's just go all out.
Yeah.
Screw it. Let's live. Did you ever think that when you probably didn't, but when you started this, did you ever think your single barrels would become one of the most like, I don't know, the waxed out, tatered out, like, I mean, it's insane. Like, people literally make puns like Riffmas and like.
Well, we did that.
Yeah, we did that.
We had it. Yeah.
But overall, people collect your single barrels. They take it and they make Toy Story bottles out of them. They do all this crazy stuff. We're not even going to get into it. Everybody knows sticker, controversies and stuff. But the fact that it's such a collected whiskey and people have so much fun with it. Is that something you ever thought about, or do you like that? I mean, obviously, you probably don't care that much what people do with it, but how do you feel about that part of it?
When we first started putting single barrel whiskey out, and more specifically when people started coming to like pick them out in person, I think the first time we started getting like forwarded some of these stickers, we were like, we worked so hard on the packaging, like we worked so hard on the branding, like, oh my gosh, like we loved the design of our distillery on the back, and we loved like all the text on, and we were like kind of taken aback. But then like, when you see some that are a little vulgar and then some that are funny, and then we had just kind of started to roll off our back. I mean,
yeah,
we can print like, thank you for buying the whiskey. Again, it's yours. Like, we kind of just came to the conclusion that it's like, if you buy a jacket, you can put a patch on it if you want. Yeah. I mean, I bought the whiskey and it's definitely yours. But I can say we've gotten some blowback from some of the things that people thought that we were like actually like involved in. And I can say, disclaimer, the only stickers that we ever put on any of our bottles are stuff that say like non-chill filtered on our gin bottle.
Yeah. No,
they personally don't bother me. I can see the fun in them.
Yeah.
This bottle in particular, again, before Eric joined the show,
I have like 3 bottles of it. You can.
Do you really?
Yes.
I didn't realize you had that many of them. He was a fan before he was a co-host.
That's one way to get whiskey.
Yeah, right. So this was the first pick we did with New Riff, and this was actually the first official podcast pick as well. A Riffmas story. It's got Ralphie from A Christmas Story on the back, and I mean, just all sorts of little podcast Easter eggs and everything as well. But yeah, speaking of COVID, we came in.
But this one's better.
Why did you just have that ready to go?
This is the second pick we did, and this is the one I helped do, and it's way better than that. No, they're.
I mean, I will say my family is. I forget what channel they showed on every Christmas Eve and
TNT,
Christmas marathon. Christmas Story. So I'm usually good for about 3.5 hours of Christmas.
Either way, we've got 2 bottles here that are just phenomenal, and I don't know. I had to bring up the single barrel program because it's
the craziest thing about this too. I don't know how we lucked into this. Both of these picks are the exact same proof. They are both exactly 106.4 proof.
Years apart, too.
I have no idea how we lucked into that. Just absolutely blows my mind. But we had to showcase our little it's like bringing toys to show and tell.
Going to New Riff, I've done picks with my buddy Matt. He's a wrestler, wrestling with whiskey. We've done picks there, and like I've done picks with the podcast and all that. And it's just, I don't know.
It's always a great time.
I just love it. We go there. And everybody's so nice, and they're just like, here we go, try this, try this, try this. We pick our stuff, we get to walk around, it's just fun. And I think it's one of the best single barrel programs ever. And that's what pissed me off when people would put stickers on there that would get like people in trouble, because I'm like, you're ruining something right now. Like, I just want to find them and be like, stop. But like, I don't know, like, going there, seeing the group, and seeing notes that say cakes and different things, and just having fun. Like, I just love New Riff, and I think you all are so welcoming and nice when it comes to the single barrel program. That, I mean, this is stuff you're distilling, so whether it's batched or what, like this is every one of the samples I try when we pick stuff is something you could bottle and be proud of. Like, it's, I hate when people say, oh, this is the bad one or whatever. It's like, no, this sample that you don't like is probably top tier bourbon for somebody else. Like, our palates are different and everything like that. I just love it.
Yeah. I mean, taste, I appreciate the kind comments. Taste is so subjective. And then when you're dealing with, some liquid that's bourbon, it's like one of the most complex liquids in the world. I mean, also, everyone, to your point, everyone's palate is different. And kind of like circling back to the single barrel program, when we pull a sample, 95% of the sensory work we do is with our nose. We're so familiar with what our whiskey tastes like that, a little bit of a taste and a little bit of spit, we're able to very easily like kind of figure out what we think is a barrel that can stand on its own as a single barrel versus these 2 barrels will work together with a blend. We also tell people a lot of times, like, while we love the single barrel program, and shout out to all of them, they do such a great job. And I think like one of the things that people enjoy so much is like people genuinely enjoy being here and working here. And again, that's a credit.
It shows. It shows.
I mean, the attitude is pretty contagious. But yeah, with the single barrel program, they're having fun. It's whiskey. I mean,
what else can you say?
I mean, here's some whiskey, here's some fun notes, and have a good experience, walk around. And yeah, I mean, the nice thing is, like, we don't have to like worry about what we're ever saying to people, because we don't really have a story of like, we're old New Riff from the 1950s resurrected as a brand. Like, everyone that's been here, especially from the beginning, like, it's the story of just like creating. It's like, it's just us telling you about like what we've done, professionally for the last 10 years of our life. And I think it shows through, and like the branding, the liquid that's in the bottle, and just generally like the culture of everyone that works at New Riff. I think everyone truly believes in what we're doing, and kind of our mission of like, to become one of the world's great small distilleries, but almost, and probably more importantly, like just to be a good member of the community and kind of lift up our little space, or as Ken says, lift up our little corner of the world. And, that's important, a contributing member of your community. And
that actually makes me think of a question that Eric and I kind of pondered on a few weeks back, but I wanted to ask you this, because you are in the industry and you have actually done one of these things. But with all of your experience, with all of your trials and tribulations that you've gone through as a distiller within the actual whiskey market, if you had to do it all over again, would you rather be the master distiller, master taster, product developer for a brand that is already established and well known, or do what you did and go back and create a new brand from scratch?
100% the second option. I mean, it's
There we
been
go.
so
There we go.
it's been so gratifying. Just again to like reinforce that, like how much like we all learned, built, created together as a startup. You know, there are some scary moments. I'm sure Ken probably had some very troublesome nights. I mean, it takes
Sure.
a lot of money to run this place. You
Absolutely.
don't get a return on anything for 4 years, but like just the experience of like, you know, there's not a lot of new bourbon brands that are built that I think will, you know, withstand the long run. That they don't pop up every day, and I think New Riff definitely has the chance to become one of those kind of like staples.
I no doubt in my mind that New Riff will be around for years to come, and probably my kids are old enough to drink and have sharing some New Riff with them. Seriously, like that's just y'all do great stuff. Like
I appreciate it. I mean, to like kind of wrap that, it was such a wild ride and an adventure. There was never a dull moment here. But also to have just like a steady hand on the wheel of Ken Lewis, and kind of like always had like kind of our mission of like what we wanted to do and what we wanted to accomplish. What we wanted to accomplish was not put out 4-year-old whiskey. What we wanted to accomplish was, you know, kind of what I was referencing earlier, like becoming like one of those distilleries. Like, gosh, if like one of our favorite distilleries here at New Riff is Springbank, if like a small percentage of people looked at us through the lens of like how the distillers at New Riff look at Springbank, I'm like, that's enough for us. It's having a great small distillery. I don't know how you quantify that. I don't know. It feels, I guess it's probably just something that you feel. I guess it's maybe something that like people acknowledge as in like they make really great whiskey. They did it their way. And, you know, just a good culture. And yeah, it's all over again. 100%. 100%, 1,000%, I would do it all over again.
one more question.
Okay.
I gotta ask.
All right.
I'll ask everybody we do. With all the snacks, what's your favorite go-to, whether you're on the road or at home, like guilty pleasure, your favorite snack cake, anything like that? What do you go for?
That's an easy question. We were over in the UK last year, meeting some of our heroes in the Scotch whiskey industry. I was actually born in England. I was an Air Force brat.
Oh, wow.
And I got my paws on Maltesers.
Oh,
God, Maltesers are so good,
okay.
man.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're
Have
the
you ever
best.
had them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're like a better Whopper.
Exactly. That is exactly what I was gonna say.
Actually,
oh my
walk into
god.
the
last
gas
time I had
station.
somewhere at Disney because they have them at the
Oh yeah,
in Epcot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, we walked into the gas station. I think we were driving out of Edinburgh, or no, sorry, Glasgow, and we had to get gas, and walked in there, and they've got like roast beef flavored chips, and like I don't know, all their gas stations seem like grocery stations.
Haggis beef jerky.
Yeah, we had plenty of haggis over there. Oh boy! But they had the big bag of Maltesers, and I got back to the car and hopped in the back, and they were just like, "What's your deal?" And I was like,
Yeah, there it is.
and it goes so well with whiskey.
There you go.
Perfect.
That was an easy answer.
Okay, I love it. Some people are like, I don't know, I don't drink, I don't use snacks. That's the answer I've got before. So it's nice to hear that.
I love snacks.
Yes.
Brian, thank you so much, man. This has been great chatting with you. Super excited to dive into more on the 8-year-old.
It's good. Spoiler alert.
Excited for what's to come as well. But yeah, just thank you so much. This has been a treat.
It's been fun. Thank you very much for having me.
Of course, man. Cheers.
Cheers.
Eric,
Yes.
I mean, we kind of talked about it already, but we probably should review this 8-year bourbon.
Kind of spoiled it a little bit, but I said spoiler.
You did.
Yes. But let's put it through the proper.
Yeah. Let me get these out of the way. But
What happened? That's a whiskey mutant move right there.
it slipped out of my hands.
That's a whiskey mutant move. Look at that. Okay,
8-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey,
Shook
bottled
up real
in
good.
bond. All the flavors of nice and coalesced at this point. If I remember correctly,
Okay.
and you can confirm this because you actually bought a bottle,
Yeah.
$65?
Let me check. That I'm pretty sure. Let me just confirm because I prepaid for it and I just picked it up. So, it feels free to me. when
You
when
don't
I think
understand how anything works, do you?
it feels very free, but I prepaid for it. So let's see.
But we did get this sample from New Riff for review. So
$67.99.
dang. I mean, $70 for an 8-year-old bourbon is a steal. It's great.
Yeah.
Uses their regular bourbon mash bill. 65% corn. I feel like the numbers.
I thought they might say it on there. Nope. Ian, where are you at? He's yelling at us right now.
Yeah.
I know the mash bill.
65% corn, 30% rye, and 5% malted barley.
I think he has it tattooed on his lower back. That mash bill.
Wouldn't you?
If I was Ian, I would.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. God, it smells so good. I already said it earlier.
Now, as Brian said, this is a limited run. However, there are going to be 2 different batches of it this year. This is from batch 1.
Yeah. The OG.
Yeah. And from what I remember as well, there is going to be national distribution for it.
They just added 4 more states.
They did. It was South Carolina, Louisiana, Georgia, and I can't remember the fourth one. I actually covered it on the live stream last night.
It kind of amazes me that they're not just already in every state.
Yeah, I know. But they're up to 31 right now, I think is
Nice.
the total.
Yeah, it's I know we're repeating ourselves, but it's dark, it's grapey, it smells like something way older than even 8 years. Like Perry said before, it's crazy to think that you're all right, at 4 years old, New Riff, I don't need to change anything. Other brands, can't wait to taste this at this age. And now here we go. We're at 8 years now, and it's holy cow.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine. I didn't even need this. This is like a gift. We didn't need this.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's butterscotch. It's that dark butterscotch, dark berries and stuff like that. Mm.
It's very viscous.
Yeah,
it's incredibly oily.
If you could see my glass, it's just there's legs for days.
Here are my thoughts.
Tell me.
What if I said no? Nah, I don't
No,
think
you just
so.
skip it. You say it's scoring. And we go.
I think this smells like 8 years old. I don't know if it fully lives up to 8 years old on the palate.
Interesting.
I think it's just a little bit thin on the palate. Let me take a sip of water, and I'll go back to it just to make sure.
I'm kind of opposite on that. I think it smells like it, and I think you just said it. It's viscous. I think it tastes about 10 to 12 years old. I mean, I do. I think it could easily pass for 12 years old to me.
No, I think it's very firmly at 8 years old. Yeah, I still had something else on my palate that was distracting me from it, but I think up front is like really, really aggressively 8 years old.
Okay.
The finish to me is when it really, that is when it starts to feel like it's older.
Okay.
That's where more of the barrel influence comes through.
Yeah.
To me. And so like if I were to map it out, it's like nose, palate, finish. Like it takes a little bit of a dip on the palate. I'm not saying it tastes bad.
No.
But I don't think that it's as upfront with some of its tasting notes. It feels a little more watered down.
Well, it is 100 proof.
For some reason. Yeah.
I wonder shit. We should have asked him. Can you tell us what it is when you pulled it straight?
Well, it's a batch, so.
Well, I know, but like he could probably estimate like,
I mean
116, you think?
just knowing
The single barrels?
New Riff, I mean it's anywhere from
115,
104 to 116.
Well, like what would this be like at close to 120? You think that would like hit all
I think it would be phenomenal.
It would hit all the
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that is really holding it back is that there is a little bit I know it's bottled and bond. I understand that. I think in this instance, bottle and bond is doing a disservice.
You want to see cast strength.
It doesn't even have to be cast strength. It could be 107. It could be 110. I mean, yeah, I do. I do, but I want to see I don't want to see as much water.
I mean, he told us there's 9-year stuff in this. He said it.
Yeah. I don't know if that's allowed.
He said it in the interview.
I know. But to technically be called bottled and bond, I don't know. I don't think that's because it has to be from one distilling season. 1 year of one distilling season. So say,
is it bottled and bond though?
I thought it was.
They just said.
Where's the sticker?
They said 8-year Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. Didn't say bottled and bond. No, it just says Kentucky straight.
Does it?
Yeah. There's no bottled and bond on there. That's what I'm saying. Like he put 9-year stuff in this. The sticker does not say bottled and bond anywhere.
Okay. Yeah. My bad. He said that, and I was like, we may have.
Fuck, I'm about to blow the cover. Right
we may have hit a snag here with.
No, they just put it at 100
it's a
proof.
deep state conspiracy.
Yeah, they put it at 100 proof, but it's not bottled and bond.
Yeah. So it's 8 years old.
That's a sexy label, too.
Minimum. I love the label.
This little dip on the bottom, that's drip right there. The bottom?
Oh,
that's a drip.
I love it.
That's a drip.
Yeah. It's good. It's good stuff. Yeah, okay. So I think at 100 proof then, it's doing itself a disservice.
I will agree.
I
love this. I think if they just put it in there without putting it at 100 proof, I think we get a little bit more notes. We get a little bit more stuff. Like it's already viscous as food. But could you imagine if it was like 110 or whatever it is? What it would have been?
Well, it's almost like whispers of the single barrels that we've had that are higher proof. You know, to me, New Riff single barrels really start shining around 112, 113 proof and up.
Yeah.
This feels like it was in that realm, to your point, but it had too much water to proof it down.
I see what you're saying.
I also understand from a business perspective that they were probably trying to stretch this out further by making it 100 proof.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you know, you're probably adding 100 something more bottles, maybe more than that, depending on the size of the batch.
Good.
to the allocation. So it's just, I really like it for what it is.
Yeah.
But it is 100% on the palate an 8-year-old bourbon.
I think it tastes
But
a little older.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, let's give this the old TIMBP
Let's do it.
treatment. Nose, palate, finish, and price. Each category is out of 5. We give it a final score out of 20. What are you giving the nose on this one?
3.5.
I'm going to give it a 4.
Ooh. I think I see where this is going. But yeah, like I think the nose, to me, you get what it's going to me. I get like a little preview of the palate. Like this is one of those that like it's a roller coaster. It's one of those roller coaster whiskeys for me. I get the nose and then I get the palate, well, so on.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, just to preview the palate score, it's like the nose is there, but then I get more in the palate. So 3.5.
I get a little less on the.
We're
palate,
the opposite.
yeah.
You're the small world.
I'm micro, you're macro.
Yeah. You're small world.
Wait.
What? What?
I'm going to give the palate a 3.
Okay, I'm going to give the palate a 4 because to me, I get more on the palate, the beginning of the palate, and I'm on a roller coaster right now. I'm like nose, palate, finish. You know what my finish is?
I don't know, honestly.
5.5.
What? You can't do that. You can't break the system.
4.5.
The finish is another 4 for me.
I love the finish. Well, that's good because you gave the finish more than the palate.
Yeah, I love the finish. I think that's, like I said earlier, that is where the age starts to show. Once you have moved past the palate. And honestly, that's what keeps me going back for another drink. And here's the thing, too. I feel like I've not expressed this appropriately, but even at a 3 for the palate, this is still really good bourbon.
A 3 on the palate is better than most of the shit we tried before.
Yeah, no, it's just that like I know what it can be, and based on what it is, that's what I'm feeling. But overall, this is extremely well rounded. It's really appreciated.
You?
No, maybe.
I see it. I watch it. I taste it. I know what it could be, but I just don't have it.
Yeah. No, I'm New Riff is edging me.
It's a new cuck.
Anyway, I really like this for what it is. I just want more.
Okay.
Price $68, 70-ish. Oh, 5. Wow. I was gonna give it a 4.
For this?
Yeah.
5. I gave it a 17 out of 20.
I'm giving it a 4. I've got a 15 out of 20.
I mean, to me, it like I said, it's a roller coaster. It keeps going up. Like I love the palate. I mean, I love the nose. I love the palate. I love the finish. And the price at $67.99, whatever we said. I'm bald. It's a steal.
Did you see me in the monitor? Is that what that was?
I didn't know you did that.
Bald.
17 out of 20. This, I love this. I'm so happy I got a bottle. Yeah,
I wish I had gotten a bottle.
I'm sure we'll find one.
Yeah.
No, 17 out of 20 for me. Like, I love this thing. You're close, 15.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that I hate it by any means.
No,
I think it's
15
really
out of
good
20 on this show. Y'all better buy this.
It's a recommendation for
Y'all
sure.
better buy this.
You
want 112 proof 8-year-old.
I'm fine with 107.
I know. 112. I know you too well. Perry wants the barrel proof cast strength version of this.
That is true. I mean, don't get me wrong. I definitely do.
New Riff?
But what this
Are you
is...
watching? Are you listening right now?
Well, they definitely are, because we interviewed their master distiller and we reviewed their newest product.
Just a sample. So, just a teeny sample.
I want to do one more thing before we get into barrel rings.
Okay.
And that's to pour a little bit more of this.
What is that?
Fortuna Batch 6.
That one.
The reason I wanted to do it is because this just got bottled, too. Old My Daily Bourbon.
I don't know him. I've heard of him before.
He just he's
I'm
got
proud
a
of
new...
him. I will be 100% honest and say I am proud. He still sucks at jokes. Like, he does not get stuff. Like, he has the worst sense of humor ever. The things he thinks
he knows how to play you like a fiddle, though.
Bro, when he tries to do something out in public,
Bro.
when he tries to do something on like out in public on like Discord and stuff, he bombs. He bombs all day long. He bombs.
Okay. Well, I'm just very excited for him, and I wanted to drink a little bit more of the...
If anybody listening to this gets this bottle, tag him and say, we love the mutant batch, because this is the batch that he made for me. He heard that I didn't like the previous batches and all that stuff. What number is this? 6? 6 is the Whiskey Mutant batch. Fortuna Whiskey Mutant batch number 6. Tag him, say it. It's good. I admit, I will 100% give him credit for it, but I will also take some of the credit. This is the Whiskey Mutant badge.
Based on influence.
Yeah.
Anyway,
let's do it.
Let's get into barrel rings. It's our segment of the show that you can actually be a part of if you call or text the number 859
428
8253. That was kind of nice and different.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
I liked it. 859-428-8253. Call or text. Leave a message for us. We will read it out or listen to it here on the podcast. We have one
Just
barrel
one?
ring this week.
Somebody won the barrel rings.
After a massive barrel ring segment last week.
Somebody is the champion of barrel rings.
Well, I don't know if it's who you think it is.
Uh-oh.
Hey, what's up, guys? Jared here.
I knew that.
With all that talk about Dragon Ball Z this week, I've been reminiscing on my introduction to it. I figured I'd call in and talk about that, because that's all I got. But no, I remember it was probably about 96-ish. I just started playing Friday night pickup hockey. It was actually with my pediatrician, who my mom worked for the pediatrician, so we kind of stayed in touch with pediatricians far longer than normal people. Anyways.
Yeah.
So I'd go and play hockey with them Friday night. I'd come home all wound up skating. I'd sit in the basement and watch TV for a while. And one of those weeks, flipped past Toonami, saw some early Dragon Ball Z episodes.
There we go.
Like Gohan and Krillin were little. They're flying around trying to avoid Vegeta and that big dude flying around with their power meters. And yeah, I mean, it took a while to kind of get caught up with who everyone was. Like, I thought his name was Vegeta.
What?
But eventually got hooked. And then, I remember like senior year of college, in like 99, like running home from classes that fall, cause I could catch, you catch the episodes right when I got home from like my afternoon classes, and finish up the Cell Saga. I was fully hooked. So yeah, it's an important part. And like super excited that my oldest kid, he's hard into Dragon Ball Z, the whole world. So that was pretty cool to see. Yeah, that was about it. I want to tell Bill, when I was little, I spent 3 years living right outside Milwaukee, up in Brookfield, to be particular. And my parents actually have a set of steak knives from Ussinger Sausage. I don't know how close you are to Milwaukee. We have those Ussinger knives. Spent a lot of time going to Gilly's Frozen Custard. Still do. My grandma is buried up there in the same cemetery as the Davidson family of Harley Davidson. Actually lived next door to the Davidsons for a summer. We were living with my grandma for a little bit. But yeah, that's it. Eric, your dollar bill set bet. It's on its way. I'm a man of my word. So
there we go.
Keep an eye out for that one. See ya.
Prancing around. Okay. First off, awesome.
Jared might be our most interesting listener.
Jared, Dragon Ball Z, following, Me Too, Toonami, all this stuff. My favorite thing is Jared going into like other barrel rings people.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, hey, Bill, like, oh, also
crossover.
Yeah. Jared crossing into the other barrel rings, like,
so good.
I mean, that's good. Like, I don't have nothing to comment on going to like
The steak knives?
the steak knives and stuff. That's him, and they're literally having their own episode within the episode. They're doing a Matrix barrel rings right now.
I love that.
Yeah, I have nothing. I don't have anything to contribute to that.
Yeah.
Other than, Bill, where you at? That's all I have to say.
Do we need to do a wellness check on Bill?
I think so.
I also want to point out, just Google Voice knows, I don't even know how, but they know exactly how to capitalize Dragon Ball Z, Gohan and Krillin, and Vegeta.
People don't even know how
That's
to pronounce
crazy.
Vegeta normal.
I know. You know what my wife calls Vegeta?
Vegeta.
Vagina.
So like Stephen A. Smith. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Vegeta.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Anyway, Jared wins
But he
this week.
lived next door to the Davidson family?
He wins this week. He won.
He's the new king.
He's the king. Jared, you coming to the meetup?
I hope so.
He better.
High proof hot takes?
High proof hot takes. It's been a crazy week for the Whiskey Mutant. I'm not going to get into it. I've had people tag me and give me credit for stuff, and then I've had people who have not. So all I'm going to say is, if you're on Instagram or you're doing a podcast or YouTube or something, and you legitimately do something that's another person, duo, whatever has done, give them a little nod. Just a little. You don't have to like go straight up and be like, they did this, they did this. A little hint of it. And they'll know, and they'll just let it slide. But if you straight up do something that somebody else does on a normal basis, and you don't give them some credit, we're going to war. And I'm telling you right now, I'm putting together an army. A mutant army. Some may say we're the X-Men. And we're coming for you.
And Marvel says, here's a cease and desist letter.
Oh, I've already sent out a cease and desist.
Oh, well, that's, yep.
We're coming for you. Whiskey Mutant, the Pear Bear, and everybody else who knows. You know. I know Perry doesn't like it. I know he doesn't like the if you know, you know.
Yeah.
But the
If
people,
it's appropriate.
the people who know, you know. We're coming for you. And it doesn't matter how many followers. It doesn't matter how many likes. It doesn't matter how many subscribers you have. We're coming for you. So be ready. Just be ready. That's all I'm saying. I'm very curious to see what happens, because the buzz around this army is big. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah, Right there, look. Ryan Reynolds is here.
Just because it's raining outside doesn't mean you have to forget how to drive.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tips and bits.
Tips and bits.
What do you
let's
have
go.
to recommend this week?
Me? I've been reading, I mentioned it earlier when I went to Comic-Con. I got the Chainsaw Man manga box set.
You posted a picture of it,
Yeah,
right?
crazy.
Looks really
blood,
good.
Blood everywhere. It's one of those anime to manga that the anime is just, they're just slow. It's a big studio. They want to make it look good. So it takes forever for like 10 episodes to get made.
Mhm.
I would recommend reading Chainsaw Man manga because it's like the epitome of what I love about manga. It's got a good story. It's got over the top, like this is not meant to be in a story. And then it's got a little bit of fan service. It's got like a love interest. Like it's got everything. Right now, I would recommend reading Chainsaw Man manga.
Okay. We got through the currently 4 available episodes of Shogun. Oh my gosh. It's incredible. I feel like every single episode is as good as the previous one. You know how like some shows there's just huge dips in quality, especially with like limited series events.
Oh, after the first episode, and they're like,
And there's no boobies.
yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. It's all about boobies.
Anyway, it just consistently has been fantastic.
Oh, I can't wait. to
I was looking into it a little bit further. There's going to be 10 episodes total by the time it's finished. It's
We're
supposed
at
to
4 right now.
Yeah, it's supposed to be done around like late April.
Speaking of April,
Speaking of April.
come on, you got to get in the episode now. Nope, you got to come over here. Come on, April. Come on. You set her up perfectly.
I know, right? That was crazy.
Perfectly. There's no stuffed animals. Come here. We're on tips and bits. Give us something to recommend. Come here. No, you have to get in the show. Come here. You're part of it already. April, come here. Come here. Come on. Come on. You have to
That's okay.
now.
No.
She has to. No.
Don't give her an anxiety attack.
Come on. April, come here.
No,
Come on.
I'm an ally.
April. April, come here. Come here.
Dude,
There she goes.
you're going to get divorced.
No, I'm not. Recommend something. What's something that you've watched, listened to, played on your phone, anything, read, anything?
Like that's new?
Just something you would recommend to the listeners or the watchers.
Golden Girls?
Okay. Tell them why. Why?
Because it's the best.
Why?
Because it's good.
Who's the best Golden Girl?
I don't know. That's
Who do you
debatable.
think-
That's a whole episode.
Who in reality? I know what's her name probably was
Who's what's her name?
the whore of the,
Blanche?
but who actually got the most D?
Blanche.
I think
I think it was.
You think it was Rose?
Mhm.
Yeah.
there we go. You heard it.
Probably
Here.
Rose.
Mhm. Because she had a steady boyfriend.
Oh.
She had a steady boyfriend. Okay, thank you for having me on.
Thanks for being on, April.
Follow. What's your Instagram? Smith April 859. Go follow her. Yeah, get her some follows.
Anyway, Shogun's really good.
I can't wait to start it.
Again,
I saw the preview. I'm waiting to just be able to
watch it
send
on your big screen
Oh yeah.
too.
Oh yeah.
there is, I was kind of, was it during the pregame chats we were talking about this? But the ending of episode 2 has some of the best television I've ever seen. And this is not a spoiler by any means, but the final shot is like, it's a work of art.
The girl's on a board and the boys there.
No.
And she says, "Save me."
I'll say this too. One of my favorite parts of this, and this is me being a big old nerd, is I kind of like want to learn Japanese.
God, you know how many times I thought of that when I've watched anime to be like, you know what? I want to be able to just turn the subtitles off and just listen to this.
Right, yeah.
And watch it.
But
and know.
I'm such a language nerd that
I can't even put like sentences together the right way. There's no way I can learn another
But that's
language.
the thing, like I'm apparently a big enough language nerd that I can like piece together the way that they are speaking.
I know you could.
And
I could not.
And
I don't even know where to put a comma.
Japanese essentially is Yoda speak. I'm not even kidding. It's so similar.
I'll feel you. That way?
No, I mean like,
Damn it. See, I told you I can't do it.
Where subjects and prepositions go, and it's really, really fascinating to me.
I can't.
So I'm
You
gonna
could, I
re-engage
What's
that
what's
part of
that
my brain.
Game, or it's like an app where you play a game.
Duolingo.
But, yeah.
Yeah,
Can you do that?
I could
Try it.
Jeez. I would rather use, and I actually, this is how much I'm like interested in learning a new language. I looked into the best software or program for it. Rosetta Stone, excuse me,
Okay.
is supposed to be the best language learning system out there. Duolingo is good for short term.
I'll do a Lipa.
I don't care. I think her music sucks.
Damn.
I think her music's really bad. You know what? This actually brings up an interesting thing that I thought of earlier today. You know how our musical tastes are very, very different.
Yes.
Right? I found the one artist that completely divides us. Like there is no way that you it is literally like apples to oranges between us. Okay? It's not John Mayer. It's not Dave Matthews Band. It's not Toby Keith.
Okay.
Nora Jones. See?
How did you figure this out? How?
Because she has a new song out, and I was listening to it, and I was going, this is really good. And Eric would never in a million years like this.
No. Even those old songs she had. No.
I knew it. I called that from a million miles away. There's no common ground. Artistry, like you couldn't find anything that you would be like, yeah, I get it. You just through and through are like, not even you may as well be an idiot for like anything that Nora Jones has put out.
No. No.
Anyway.
If you're not an idiot, you can go to patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast for as little as $1 a month. You can support the show, but at $5 a month, you get all the bonus stuff. You get the bonus content, all the pregame chats, the pregame, the pre-episodes, the episode uncut, and you get the first.
The Great Divide, Nora Jones.
You get the first access to the VIP, the hotel links, everything because you're in the Discord. because we put stuff on the Discord. And we talk in there, and don't get mad if you get offended in the Discord. That's just how it is. But patreon.com/mybourbonpodcast. Go there, support the show. You get all the bonus stuff, all extra, everything. That's if you want everything, just go there. If you want to go and get some merch, bourbonshop.threadless.com. I saw some stuff in my email. Big 40% discount.
Yeah, they would.
Barry's even mad about it. He's like, what? There's a discount? No, I didn't approve of discount.
Okay, here's my pitch for the merch shop. We make very little money with it. It is not about a source of revenue for me. It's mostly about the fact that
it's about
you are wearing
community.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Like
support the show.
Just get a TIMBP shirt. Like I don't even need the money from it. And I'm not trying to like prop myself up or anything. It's just like support. I would rather see people
I wear a Josh
Allen
Allen Bills jersey every Sunday during the NFL. Why not?
Even when they're not playing.
Even when they're not playing. Why not wear a TIMBP shirt on your drinking day? We have a shirt that says, this is my bourbon drinking shirt.
Yeah.
Put it on every time you drink. Tag us.
There's a whole line of shirts, too.
Yeah.
For each day of the week.
Yeah.
So, like,
Monday?
Sundays are for bourbon. Mondays are for blah, 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 blah.
Mondays
all the way
are
through
for manly bourbon drinking. Tuesdays are for Titty Tuesday drinking. Wednesdays are for wifey. Very. Thursdays are for Thirsty Thursday bourbon drinking. Fridays are for Filthy Fridays. Saturdays are for Sassy Saturdays. All those are there. Go get some merch. If you want to send a email, if you haven't listened, you're like, how do I do things? Where do I send stuff? If you want to just write it out in an email, bourbon shop. Nope. This is my bourbon shop at gmail.com.
Yep.
We also have a P.O. box where you can send stuff to us.
P.O. Box 22609, Lexington, Kentucky 40522.
Yeah, send stuff there.
Yeah. Yeah. Please
send stuff there.
A ringing endorsement.
If you want to follow us on social media, you can follow me at Whiskey Mutant. You can follow Perry at Peter1792. You can follow the show as a whole at My Bourbon Pod. You can go to Facebook. You can join the Facebook group. This is My Bourbon Podcast Facebook group. Answer some questions. We'll let you in. And then you can go to YouTube. If you're listening to this and you want to see us, go to youtube.com. This is My Bourbon Podcast. We put all the episodes up there on YouTube. Perry stays up all night to edit them, and I feel so bad.
You're not even wrong.
No, I know I'm not wrong. I feel bad. I don't know how to do it.
My wife joked last night. She was like, so are you going to be up until 2 or 3 in the morning tonight?
I feel bad. I don't know how to do it. This one has like 45 stops. Perry has to edit this like 45 times. I don't know. But either way.
It'll be okay.
If you are on the Patreon, you get access to the Discord, and we just put the link to the hotel block where you can get a discounted hotel rate. We're going to be putting out all the VIP tickets, even the tickets to the live show there. You got to get on that. Lexington, Kentucky, Memorial Day weekend. It is going to go down. Trust me. Like, we keep it small. We keep it family style, but you don't want to miss it. Like, this is TIMBP weekend. Like, it's legit. Like, we have so much fun. People lose backpacks. We go on, like, scavenger hunts for them. We smoke cigarettes. We do parkour. We do all the stuff. We do. Bro, you smoke like 1,000 cigars that weekend. And I smoke cigarettes because I don't know how to smoke cigars. But you want to smoke cigarettes with me? You want to smoke cigars with Perry? You want to go on scavenger hunts? You want to make fun of My Daily Bourbon? Live show, VIP. That's where you do it.
Okay. Well, let's get out of here before things go any more sideways.
Cigarettes! Cigarettes. Where's Cigarette at? There's Steamboat Willie.
Golly, man.
Put it in there. It's a live show, baby. We getting time. It's time to go. Thank you to New Riff. Thank you to Brian. Like, episode's amazing.
I'm scared.
You gotta edit this.
Yeah, I know.
And I just get to drink whiskey.
We'll see y'all next week. Until then, I'm Perry.
I'm Eric.
And this is my Bourbon Podcast. Do you hate me?
No, I love you. Do you hate me, though?
No.
Because you're like, I gotta edit the fuck out of this thing.